We're going live in three, two, one. Good morning, everybody. Welcome live to the Chi here at TCWM Studios here in Philadelphia. I am your host, Marcus Julian Carbo, coming to you from the still smoldering great city of Philadelphia. And if you can hear
And
my,
we're going
let's catch this
live
here.
in
Boop.
three.
And that's done. As always, making sure that the sound check is, in fact, in place. And as you go to our produced posts, not live streams, you will, in fact, get to lose that charming portion of our live stream. So go check that out at YouTube at Tai Chi Veterans. Just look up the channel. If you haven't liked and subscribed it, by all means, what are you waiting for? Now, obviously, I opened this up and I'm going to go around it and make sure everybody knows we're live right now. So let's say the Cheecast. Hashtag Cheecast. Hashtag Cheecast is live. Yeah, and we're gonna push that everywhere. So you can find us on YouTube, Facebook, Patreon, Twitter, and a couple of other places that you can find the rest of the Tai Chi Fit family. And today we have an excellent show as always, as we're doing throughout these weeks in the build-up, meeting many of the Tai Chi for veterans instructors throughout the country. And today will be no letdown, no letdown at all, as we have some amazing instructors popping in for you today. But of course, there is a cloud looming over everything today. As we know, this weekend, a lot of protests sprang up around the country. And it has never been clearer that the world is in heavy need of Tai Chi at this moment, right? Why do I say that? One is a shameless plug, obviously. But here's the thing, and I don't want you to take this, try not to mold this to your own personal biases here. I say something you agree with, and then you sort of map that on to whatever it is, whatever those things are that you agree with. And I don't want you to do that here. One of the things that I really enjoy and absolutely love, maybe even more than the art of Tai Chi itself, is the philosophies behind the Tai Chi in the Tao Te Ching, in the I Ching, in the Tai Chi classics. Even though it is an instruction manual, there's a lot of internal focus, a lot of internal insight and philosophic guidance that pops in these publications, right? The I Ching, the Book of Change, the Tao Te Ching, the imminent book of the way, I believe, or the classical book of the way. Um, and in chapter one of the Tao Te Ching, couple of lines down, it talks about mysteries and illusions, and that if you see the game for what it is, if you see the mystery for what it is, then you will do well. You can then map this, you can take advantage of that on it's almost like knowing the rules of a game, reading the instruction manual of a game so that you can play it better. That's really all it is. If you recognize that the game is a game and you then understand its instructions, then you will play the game great. However, if you get lost in the game, if you get lost in the fact that this temporary circumstance is in fact temporary, you can lose yourself. It's like playing Monopoly between Christmas and New Year's, where families break up because people take the game too serious, or Risk, something of that nature. Now, that's an extreme scenario, but we can easily take this from the microcosm that is your dining room table and scale it up to the universe. In fact, the Tao Te Ching and Tai Chi and all of its philosophies focus heavily in on balancing, that the universe in many ways demands balance. And we know that to be true from physics. If you look at thermodynamics, it's one big story of how the universe is trying to find equilibrium. It's trying to find its balanced point, which in the case of thermodynamics is 0, right? However, what it tells us is that when there is an imbalance, there is still balance. It's just that that balance emanates in a way that we don't see as balance. So if you weigh one side down with 1,000 pounds, the other side is going to somehow find a way to find its 1,000 pounds or to neutralize the 1,000 pounds that is causing the imbalance. And what you are seeing right now in the cities across America, and even I saw a story yesterday in Berlin where there were many protests because of what's going on here in the United States. What we have is the ultimate equation, or we have the equation of imbalance. For many years, we've talked about the imbalances in our society. And for many years, they have gone long ignored. But that's like stretching a rubber band and stretching just in one direction. There's no pull on either side. No one can feel when the tension is building. And so you pull in one direction until you either lose grip or the rubber band snaps. What we're watching right now is the loss of grip, which is good because it means you can grab the band and try again, maybe even share the other end. That's the possibility. But the other possibility is that the other side picks up the band, they pull it together, and they snap it. It's still a balance. And just because one does not necessarily share the same views, or one does not necessarily understand or empathize with one viewpoint or another, does not delegitimize it, number one, because perspective is everything. Understand that you live your life through feelings. If you feel something is wrong, you're going to act accordingly. That is something that is inherent to us evolutionary, from an evolutionary perspective. Sometimes I don't have my punctuation completely put into my words just yet. And in doing that, in the fact that we need to find that empathy in others, my challenge to you is that, to look at the situation, not from your own perspective, but from the perspective of the peoples involved. That is regardless of which side of the political sphere you may find yourself on. This is Taoist virtue. This is Tai Chi philosophy implayed. It's very simple. Call a spade a spade. Hear the grievances on one side. Hear the grievances on the other side. See where there is merit, see where there is misunderstanding, and form your opinion from there. I often find, way too often, that I'm using often a lot in that sentence. I find way too often that people are operating out of buckets of information that are in separate countries, let alone even remotely representing one or the other. And that is what the Tao was talking about. To get lost in the mystery to such a degree that you get enwrapped in it. That's a problem, because now you're walking in a world that does not mimic reality. And so when reality bites you, you end up fighting reality itself. Now, we, in our limited scope as human beings, can only know so much of reality. But we've got a lot of information out there, number one. And then number two, that information is available. We live in an age of information. So I challenge you, with all the challenges going on in the world right now, as Kevin is logging in, to challenge yourself on getting to know what the illusion is really about. And with that, the man, the myth, the legend, the himself, Kevin Borkstedt, joins us here on the Cheatcast today. Good morning,
How you
Kevin.
doing?
I'm good, sir. How are you after this tumultuous weekend?
It's uh it's been a long weekend.
It's been a long weekend.
Yeah. Yeah.
Indeed.
I've been having a lot of conversations with a lot of people that I know in and around Columbia and other places too, for that matter.
Sure.
It's there's a lot to talk about.
There is.
As you know, I do a lot of things with music stuff in
Yes.
addition to Tai Chi. And one of the things that I did yesterday afternoon, I frequently on Sunday afternoons play a few tunes live. And it was kind of depressing yesterday. And one of the things I was talking about is this is a time when a lot of people need to reach out. This is
Yes.
a time to reach out and shake hands with your friends, shake hands with the people who maybe are not your friends, and get into a lot of communication.
Yep.
But that gets a little complicated because right now everybody's scared to go touch anybody or get close enough to have a conversation. So it's a complicated time.
You're absolutely right. And I think that points out what we do in Tai Chi, which is practice. And
Yes.
you practice your mindfulness, you practice your craft and your art. Because when you need it to teach your class, when you need it to do your demonstrations, you have it right there in your pocket.
Yeah.
And if we would have been practicing communication the way you're presenting, the fact that we cannot touch or there needs to be 6 feet between us wouldn't be as much of an obstacle because as we're talking across distances, I mean, I know you're further down I-95 from me,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. Little
but
ways, little ways.
just a little bit. Uh, but ultimately, here we are breaking bread and exchanging ideas. So the ability to communicate is there. It's like you said, the willingness of communication is that there.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of people who, as I look around and look at different news reports and look at all the posts on Facebook and all those other kind of places, there are some people who either just don't want to communicate at all or only want to communicate if it's their idea that gets the airtime.
Yes.
And I think that misses the point. I think
Mhm.
that misses the point. I don't want to get into a philosophical discussion. I don't want to get into politics for sure.
I understand,
Um,
certainly, certainly.
but
So, what I want to do is just before you jumped on, I was using the Tao and Tai Chi philosophy to sort of screen what we're seeing
yeah,
coast right now.
okay.
And using your Tai Chi eye, what does this say to you? And how can we fix it?
The how we can fix it is a little more difficult.
No,
That's
you're fine. You could do that in 12 minutes. You'll be all right.
it's when we talk about Tai Chi, it's
Mm.
very closely related to discussions. In fact, I just watched a video that somebody shared with me the other day about this. We talk about yin and yang, or
Mhm.
yin and yang, depending on how you like to pronounce these things. And we always talk about the one and the other.
Mhm.
But I think the important thing to remember is it's all the same. It's all part of the one. It's all part of the all. So it's not like you've got, you know, male and female, good and bad, black and white, this and that and the other thing. It's all part of the same thing.
Mhm.
So when I'm talking about Tai Chi and Qigong and in related forms of exercise, it's all part of the one. It's the breath that comes in, it's the breath that goes out. It's it's the movement that's continuous.
Hmm.
so that if you and I are talking and we're sharing, we're all part of the same thing. If the guy next door to me or down the street, he's all part of the same thing that I'm a part of. So that's kind of how I see it, you know. And when I see the film footage of people who, you know, I talked to my wife about this while we're watching these things. You've got film footage, and you got some guy from a news outlet standing there trying to, you know, make some sense out of things and let people elsewhere know what's going on. And you've got some people who are just running around in the background, you know, flashing signs and showing off their t-shirts and I've got this sign and I've got that sign. This is their chance at stardom. You know, that half a second there that they're doing that, but that doesn't help anything. If they're going around throwing bricks through somebody's car window, that doesn't help anything. Occasionally you'll see the one guy who will reach out. I saw one fella here in Columbia on the news channel actually having a very good real conversation with the news guy. Here's what's frustrating to people. Here's why we feel the way that we do. Here's what we're missing. And that's the conversation that I think people need to have.
I I agree. I absolutely agree that that is the conversation that we need to have.
Yeah.
I think the frustration of this whole thing is no one's been willing to give a voice to that conversation until the brick went through the window.
Yeah, that is a message that I heard loud and clear over the weekend.
Yeah. And
And
so, yeah, go ahead.
if
'Cause
if
I,
people have if people like me have heard that message, all right, I get it. Let's have a conversation. What do we need to talk about?
Mhm.
If you, Marcus, and I, Kevin, are part of the same world,
Sure.
same land, what is it that we need to share, and how do we share that?
Hmm.
Now, in my case, my my vehicles for communication usually are through Tai Chi and Qigong, where it's mostly introspective for me and helping other people be introspective for themselves to to learn to feel your own rhythm,
Hmm.
to feel your own emotions, to understand how all that's put together and work with that,
Hmm.
which in turn, you know, putting in terms of stress, my stress level comes down, so it's much easier for me to listen. It's
Sure.
much easier to say what I feel like I need to say, but more importantly, it's easier, less stressful for me to hear what I may not really want to hear, to be truthful.
Right. Right.
So the on the Tai Chi and Qigong side, I think that's my medium, if you want to think of it that way. Then the music is the uh, what's the opposite of introspective? Extrospective.
Extrospective.
I'm not sure that's a real word. You know, there's
Uh,
somebody going to send us a nasty gram about that. But but when I'm doing the music side of me, that's
mhm.
more where I'm expressing outward, and that's where it's easier to share in your music the harmony, the it's a very emotional, almost nonverbal, even though you might be singing. It's a sharing. It's a communication of emotion that comes in that singing. Now, as you
Well,
know, for me, mostly that's bluegrass, so not
sure.
everybody's into that, but
But here's the thing: regardless of what type of music you listen to, you as the musician, you as the composer, you can infuse your emotion, you can infuse your message, which really is what I mean, all the message is just how you feel about something.
Yeah.
And you can infuse your feelings into your music where you want your audience to be excited, you'll go in a
Right.
higher tempo,
That's
or
exactly right.
right? So there's almost a pure form of communication in your music than
Yeah.
there is in a spoken word.
Hmm.
So, and I love how you're saying this. I absolutely do. That idea that you bring up, the idea that we're all one, we're all in this together, and it's not just we're in this together. We're all like I am you and you are me. What happens to you will affect me, and so on and so forth.
We could write a song with that. Maybe introduce a walrus or something.
Introduce it. I like it. I like that. That'll be a top 40 in no time. Have you seen
Yeah.
the nonsense
Yeah.
that's there right now? Something like this has been begging to be recorded. So how do we get to a point where, because I think that I know that for me changed perspective when I start to see myself and other people, when I can say to the cat, I am the cat and the cat is me. I'm not likely to throw the cat across the room that day, right?
Hmm.
And more
Hmm.
patient when the cat, maybe I'm a little irritated, so the cat comes over, and I don't necessarily have that patience for the cat, but because I see myself in the cat,
Hmm.
I'm going to give it that patience because I would want that patience. This is almost like the golden rule here,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah, very
Uh,
similar.
very, very similar, just a little more expounded. And so, how talk about how Tai Chi can actually teach that lesson to people.
Oh boy, this is starting to get real thick here.
Yeah, it is. It wasn't what you were expecting, but I didn't expect this weekend either. So,
Well, that's true. That's true. Of all the things that I thought we might be talking about, this is maybe not it. Um, I know that for a lot of people, it kind of gets back to what I touched on a few minutes ago with this whole stress thing.
yeah,
A lot of people literally get into religious wars over ideas.
sure, sure, sure,
You
sure.
know, my idea is my idea and it's right. And by golly, if you don't agree with my idea, then you are clearly wrong. And you know, the only solution is I should probably bash you over the head with a brick, or whatever.
Yeah,
Um, I don't quite get that whole line of thinking, but there's a lot of people to maybe not that degree, because that's a fairly extreme example. But
sure.
there's a lot of people who feel that way, that I need to really shout out my message because I'm the only guy here can be right. And if I'm not right, then I must be wrong. And that can't be.
Right.
So if you look in the Tai Chi world and some of the philosophical things behind it, you know, all things move, all things are still,
Mm-hmm.
all things happen. You may or may not like it, but it's going to happen just the same.
Mm.
They we have these examples of, birds know how to be birds, they don't have to work at it. Grass knows how to be grass, it doesn't really think a whole lot about flower, just, like, hey, I'm supposed to bloom, this is the time to bloom, so let's bloom. And then a few weeks later, it's not time to bloom anymore. And the blossom falls off and the plant goes back to sleep till the
Mm.
next blooming season. So if I'm practicing my Tai Chi for me, that helps me to stay in tune physically with those changes that I talk about. If I'm doing something as simple as a single whip movement, I reach, I make my hook, I come across, and I relax into it. Let's do that again. And it helps me to feel that movement, and it's the right time for the right thing, well, maybe that's also true of ideas. An idea that made sense sometime in the past, well, maybe it just doesn't make sense now. Let it go. What's an idea that makes sense now? You know, when I was growing up in South Carolina, just going back a ways, you know, clearly I was a small white child.
Uh,
And I grew up in a culture that was probably not atypical for relatively rural South Carolina.
mm,
Um, but my parents really came from other places, one from Kentucky, one from Indiana. So some of the teachings that I had as a small child weren't quite the same. So I tended to treat people differently, like the other black kids that were, you know, right down the street from us that, you know, lived in these, what I would now recognize as pretty poverty stricken areas. They didn't have much,
yeah.
you know, and, you know, just dealt with all of that much differently. Those ideas at that time were pretty common. And through the 60s, they changed. As soon as we moved out of town and moved up to Columbia, right after we left, they closed down the school rather than integrate.
Mm,
You know,
jeez.
now from the white side of that, I saw some of these things happen. They're reflective of ideas that a lot of people even now have trouble letting go of,
Right.
but they're old ideas. They're not good ideas.
Right.
They never were.
Right.
They never were. But they came out of a time where some people with power and influence seem to think it was.
Right.
So it's time to let go of those ideas. Can you make it right historically? I don't know. That gets really complicated.
Sure.
But from the Tai Chi world to release, to pick up something new, a different movement, and go a different way,
Sure.
you know, and you just got to let these things go. That ain't easy.
Now,
We know this from Tai Chi. It's not easy to relax muscles that you've kept tense for your entire working career sitting at a computer, and your muscles in the back of your neck are almost permanently hunched. Yeah, I see you straightening up. Yeah, I see that. But that doesn't mean that you can't do it.
right.
And through our Tai Chi, through our Qigong, we can help people to learn to relax those muscles, to feel that they're tense to start with, but then to relax them and to train themselves to do something different. Using that as a metaphor, you can learn to think about ideas differently. You can learn to say, well, you know, yeah, that guy's got darker skin than I do, or the hair's different, or they dress differently, or they drive a different kind of car, or whatever. You know, it could be almost anything. You
Sure.
know, this guy doesn't like bluegrass music. He can't be any good, right? You know, I mean, if you don't like bluegrass, you're just not thinking right.
And so the
But
great folk music wars of the United States began.
yeah, that's right. So if we use the Tai Chi as a metaphor for learning to recognize what we are and how we are and how we can relax and be something different, then maybe it works.
Sure.
Now, I don't know, this is kind of long-winded. I'm not sure if I'm making myself real clear here.
Oh, I think you're absolutely clear. I'm loving what you're saying right now. And I think you perfectly encapsulate one, the power of Tai Chi and how it is that internal journey to go from being stuck to being fluid.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That's
Yeah,
exactly what you
yeah.
just described. And in the little bit of time that we have left, you're a veteran. How does what you just said, that going from stiffness and rigidity to fluidity and movement, how has that been valuable to you in your journey post service?
Well, one thing I have to clarify, I am not a military veteran.
Okay.
When I was in high school, I was going to be. This
Okay.
was Vietnam era, and the Army decided they didn't want me.
Uh,
And they,
my dad got
which
the same telegram.
which in retrospect I'm okay with,
Mhm.
because a lot of people about that time didn't come back, so it's probably okay. But
Sure.
I think even without that, you know, I think most people that I know anyway have developed a rigidity, a stiffness, a life pattern that they're just locked into. In some cases, that's physical. Um, I see, elderly people even, believe it or not, older than I am, who develop this hunched over walk because somebody told them, if you use a cane, you're going to be able to support yourself better.
Right.
But the cane's too short. So it
Mm,
doesn't take very long before they can't stand up straight. And there's an older woman that I was dealing with just a few months ago, said, get yourself a tall walking stick. Pretend you're an old monk in
yeah.
China.
Get you a bow staff.
Get a bow staff and stand up straighter with it. Your back is going to feel better.
Yeah.
And it worked.
Sure.
And she's not get a taller one, lean up. And I think with our Tai Chi stuff, we can take those patterns, again, they can be physical or they can be mental, and learn to metaphorically stand straighter, stand taller, relax the tense muscles. There you go. Like a marionette, I just lift myself up.
Yep.
Little string lifts my wrist, lets me move it around, all those kinds of things. Because we all of us get into these patterns of life.
Yeah.
They're not just physical. They're mental patterns. And it's a really interesting thing sometimes just to take one of those things and say, screw it. I'm not going to think about it that way today. I'm going to think about it this way. I'm going to take a different path to get to the grocery store. I'm going to take a different path. I'm going to buy a different brand of soap. Oh my God, I'm not going to use Dial for a month. I'm going to use this, whatever it is. I'm going to change my toothpaste.
Oh man.
It can be really little things, but it's like, wow, that makes a difference.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, we could go on for this for
Sure.
days, but we're
Those are great.
saying the same thing. We're saying the same thing, just different ways. Maybe a different set of words means something different to somebody.
No, I agree. The more the message gets out and the more variety that the message has, the more impact it has. And
Yeah.
it shows that it's not a me thing, it's not a you thing, it's a we thing. It's a
Yeah.
human thing, which is awesome. Awesome. I wish I had 3 more hours to hang with you right now, Kevin. So we're gonna have you back on the Chi-Cast here, give you a whole segment by
Yes.
yourself. But tell everybody on the web, everybody watching right now, where they can find you.
Well, if you're looking on Facebook, look for Taiji, Taiji, with Kevin. If you look for Kevin Borgstead on YouTube, I'm there. And then you'll see there's some stuff there for some music, and there's stuff there for Tai Chi as well.
Do you create any Tai Chi music?
Well, I've been thinking about that, because this is one of those whole new skill things that we've been getting into lately, with all this electronic stuff and video production and things. It's a whole new world. But one of the things that I have been thinking about a little bit is trying to come up with some interesting music that I like using my bluegrass instruments, primarily upright bass, that support Tai Chi. And
Okay.
I think that's an interesting idea. I hadn't gotten very far with it yet, but it's simmering.
It's right there.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, Kevin, thank you so much for joining me on the Chi-Cast today. This was a great interview. We're definitely going to have you back because there's so much more I just want to lean back and listen to you. In fact, the first time we met, the one thing I said was, I like this guy's voice.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
So we may have a new co-host here at some point.
Well, just let me know what you need. We'll talk to my people and we'll see if we can work that into the schedule.
That's right. I'll have your people on speed dial by my
There you
people.
go.
Yeah. All right. Have a great rest of your day,
Okay.
Kev. Thank you so much
Take
for your
care.
insight, and I'll see you soon. All right, everyone. That was Kevin Borgstad down there in Columbia, South Carolina, one of our amazing instructors with the Tai Chi for Veterans program. Veteran. Kevin really does. When I took class with him, the first thing that I said in my notes was, he's got an amazing voice. He's going to be great, right? And what I really enjoy about the interview with Kevin is to show that Tai Chi is more than just an exercise. Now, in the beginning, that's exactly what it is. It's just an exercise. You're just doing a thing. And the thing about the wisdom, the beauty about Tai Chi is that the philosophy is built into the movements itself. The idea that I am you and you are me comes in the framework of the body is one side of the body. For one part of the body to move, the entire body must move. And therefore, even in stillness, to move into stillness, think about all of the operations your body has to do in order for you just to sit. It's got to beat your heart, your brain has to fire, your lungs have to operate, your kidneys have to do their thing, your circulatory system, all your central nervous system. Think about all the moving parts that have to go into you sitting in stillness. So at no point are you ever truly still. Not to mention, you're on a planet spinning around at 1,000 miles an hour around the sun at 19 miles a second, and so on and so forth. So even in that moment of yin for you personally, there is still yang all around you. And even in moments of yang, you will find yourself at times in a sea of yin. Most of the time, we look for that balance between the two. And that's what's happening right now. My cat is attacking my toes down here. That's what's happening on a macro micro scale right now. By macro micro, I just mean the human point of view, which is there's an imbalance. There's a sense of imbalance. On the one hand, you've got people in need. On the other hand, you have people in greed. What's the difference between the two? Well, the difference is possession. But in many ways, those at the top are at the same level of desperation, if not more, than the people at the bottom. The people at the bottom know how to live without. They're just tired of it. The people at the top don't, and they know it, which makes each one even more valuable. Valuable to such a degree that our second amazing instructor for the day is now popping in down there from good old Virginia. Heather Umberger, how are you?
I am first honored to be talking with you today, Marcus. And I was watching the beginning of your show and a little bit of the conversation that's been going on, and honored and find it very interesting that I'm in this place at this time, in this moment.
Right.
And I'm just open to infinite potential. So thank you for giving me the opportunity. And I also say thank you for being a mentor to me in this new Tai Chi experience for me.
Oh, thank you, Heather. Listen,
Yeah.
you're a fantastic instructor, and we have looked excitedly towards your blossoming as an instructor, and you're fantastic. So it is as much of an honor for me as it sounds like it is for you. So thank you as
Yeah.
well for being with us,
Yeah.
because without instructors like you, we couldn't do this. So
Yeah. Yeah, well, I also would love to go back to what you said right before, well, at the beginning of the program, and you talked about kind of a challenge for us all is to see you said something about the illusion. What is the illusion? And as I heard that, it really clicked for me with my background and my experience in life and maybe my spiritual beliefs that the illusion in this time and age for myself, and I'll just share it, is the illusion of separateness.
yes,
That we are separate from ourselves, and it occurs at every level in our bodies. I think our society, we believe that we're separate. We're just our minds. We're just walking heads. Oh, I've got to think. Everything goes on here. And with my background in counseling and integrative wellness, our body, our mind, our emotions, our spirit, or our uniqueness, it doesn't have to be religious. And I even like to say now that I've worked with Tai Chi Fit is that I like to say that my spirit is that life force energy that's within me is kind of connects me to this, I'll say spirit. But this thing that I am separate, my mind is separate from my body, and that I end where my skin ends, and I'm separate from you. And in this time with Corona and COVID-19, we know that even the air connects us in many ways. So there's so many metaphors in our body and in nature that we're connected, and we forget. I don't believe that there's anyone that could, and I say this and I even catch myself in my own truth and my own learning, but to create or perpetuate violence is a misunderstanding of this. And I laughed because there are some times when I will kill an insect. And I recognize we all are on our journey, and I recognize that that's part of my separateness, that even when I might decide that there's an insect that I'm afraid of, that we all are on this journey of how do I connect and how do I feel, how do I connect to myself and with others? And that's really what I believe wellness and living with infinite potential is about in our life. So I don't know. I'll get down off my soapbox, but you really inspired me this morning to think about what I believe. And so that's what I believe.
No, I love that. I love that insight. The Matty who said, when you separate yourself, when you put a name on something, when you label something, it is an act of violence in and unto itself, because you're separating yourself from the whole, and that takes violence to do. And when I started thinking along those lines, and what I've seen from people that have adopted that sort of framework is there becomes a oneness. There is, you stop reacting, you start deciding, because suddenly you're not acting against another, you're acting against yourself. And that is it's the golden rule. It's do unto others what you would have them do unto you. But with a little more insight, right? So you've been playing with Tai Chi Fit for a little over a year now, right?
Correct. Yeah, I had my first Tai Chi class, and I was so honored to be like 5 feet away from David Dorian Ross to take my first experience. And I was just the whole time, I was like, how much can I receive? What can I take in? It was just an incredible opportunity. And, sometimes I think there are those moments in life, I've had those experiences where like, if this is all there was, if I didn't have anything else, this moment is incredible. So luckily, I hope I have many more of those moments, but it was one of those moments.
What was that like? Your first time out of the gate with Tai Chi, and you get DDR, and all of his fabulous sort of live optimism. What is the word I'm looking for? He's fun live. That's
He is, and he's just so cool. Like, let's face it, like Tai Chi people are so cool, and I hope it rubs off on me. No. Well, and I say that, and then in my mind, I connect to I guess a principle, and there may be another term for this, but in Tai Chi Fit, authenticity. Like when we're authentic, when we're our real selves, it's attractive. So that's one of the things I felt, and I will share, because it was one of those snapshot moments of my first Tai Chi weekend training. I am, and still feel this way. I'm just a newbie. I'm a newborn to this realm, although I am a mover. I'm a dancer, and I've taught movement, other movement and wellness modalities. But when I was there, so many of the students had been doing Tai Chi for years and years, and I was able to witness one gentleman in his 80s. And we had chairs for part of the learning process, and I'll never remember, the chairs were all together, I'll never forget, chairs were all together, and this 80-year-old gentleman, very tall, like moved around the chairs, and for a second I was like, "Ooh, be careful!" And it was just effortless, and the grace that he did it, and I was like, that struck me. I was like, that's what I want, and I saw that as a huge benefit at the time, as well as many more. But
absolutely, so you find that like your dance informs your Tai Chi, and your Tai Chi informs your dance?
Say that one more time. I just had a little issue with hearing you.
Do you find that what you learned as a dancer has informed some of your Tai Chi, and some of your Tai Chi has helped maybe even improve your dancing?
I think it definitely works both ways. I am also, I'll give a shout out to Adele Brownlee Brewer. She is one of my NIA, and that's a dance technique trainers. And she's the one that introduced me to Tai Chi Fit. She said, "Heather, you need to take this. Tai Chi is one of the 9 movement forms of NIA." And she said, "This will help your NIA practice." And so that really intrigued me as a dancer, like, how can this help me, and how can it help me move in my life? And so one of the big things that I'll say that it did, I've always been, I've been pretty athletic, and in my dance movement, a lot of my students are like, "Oh, we can't do that. You're just all over the place. You can move, and you're very agile, and you're fast." And that was, like, I'll say, the young masculine energy in me that was always go, go, go. And this practice of Tai Chi has really led me to see and to feel the truth in the statement that speed is the illusion of mastery. And I had heard that before in my dance, and I could do all these different kind of things, but I really was never grounded. Tai Chi has brought me that sensation of being grounded and working with the earth, and allowing myself to work even more with energy in my body, and letting it flow through me, and to be connected with it again, instead of being disconnected from energy, like we're talking about at the beginning. And I'll say this is another part of my before and after Tai Chi. I've always been like, I've got to do, I'm an achiever. I've got to get this done. I've got to do the next thing, move up the ladder in my life and in my career. And I was at this point where I was getting this, I'll say, spiritual, emotional suggestions and nudges. Heather, relax, let go. And it was about the same time, wow, that I found Tai Chi Fit. And it really has been like this more feminine, the grounding, the relaxing into, and the softness, that soft power that I'm getting to just begin to play with. And it just feels, it's so much, it's made my life and the way I go about things in my life very different. So yeah, so that's how I guess Tai Chi has informed my dance a little bit. How has dance informed Tai Chi? I think my dance brought me really into my body for the first time. I was one of these people that was in my head, and the more I learned how to dance and move and to sense my arm and to sense my pelvis and my spine, it brought me into this greater connection of my wholeness, and my potential and how empowerment. So bringing that into Tai Chi is like this interesting thing of, how do I, Heather, what I've thought of like ego in person, how does that play with my life force energy, my spirit, the world and nature? So I don't know if that makes sense.
No, that makes perfect sense. Now, you had mentioned something a little earlier. You talked about how Tai Chi helped you feel grounded in your dance and in life. Can you elaborate on what that groundedness is? Because I know for a lot of non-Tai Chi players, they hear that and they hear, who knows what they hear. And we know what we're saying when we actually say that. So can you elaborate on what that grounded feeling is, and then maybe even what it feels like?
Yeah, a couple of things as you're asking this, I think about. The first one I'll share, I know from my background with the nervous system and body, is that when we are in, we have this relaxation reflex and stress reflex in the body. It's called your sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. And the sympathetic is the stress response. And physically in our bodies, that's kind of where I lived. And so I was more like, as I'm moving, I'm like, I'm up forward, and I'm doing it in, trying to do things in here, in to out, maybe. I don't know. I'll have to think about that a little bit. Versus now and grounding, I sense my weight go into the earth. It's down and back more. It's relaxed. There's more ease and pleasure in my movement. And I'll just say it's almost like a sense of a hand, like just carrying me. So that's part of it. The other thing I thought about, I also have I haven't been running for a little while, but I've done marathons and some half marathons. And I'll say when I run now, that sense of connectedness with the earth, like instead of me trying to do it myself, and I'm exaggerating, but that sense of like, I'm down and I'm more with, and I can use the earth as the push and pull, so there's not so much struggle within my own body. And even that's easier. And the mental sense of ease, of like sensing tension in my body, is a thing that Tai Chi, I knew that before Tai Chi, but it's deepened my relationship with that experience. And how can I empower myself to shift when I feel tension and to let it go and release it, which maybe now might be a good moment.
How often do you find yourself kind of going back to your Tai Chi and just sort of finding that tension throughout the day and letting it go? How often would you say that happens?
How often do I do that? A lot. Like, I'm kind of an obsessive person too. So even in that, like maybe my obsessions now are like, oh, I'm feeling, okay, breathe, Heather. You're starting to, yeah. And then, Tai Chi, it's that's why they say it's a practice, right? I keep practicing so that instead of noticing every hour that I'm like this, maybe I go a couple hours and I sustain my ability to stay peaceful and relaxed.
Very nice indeed. Yeah, that's one of the things, because a lot of people get into their minds that, oh, well, you've been practicing forever, so you don't have any struggles, right? You have unlocked all the secrets of Zen in your journey. That's what people think. But I think it's important for people to know that no, you're dealing with the same thing, just like they are. You're just used to it and aware of it now, so that you can not freak out in traffic, but just accept it. And not that there's much traffic these days, but just accept it and let it go. So what are moments
Exactly.
that what are moments that you found in your life where tension just creeps up that you had never noticed the tension was creeping up in before?
I think that I'm able to notice and observe what I was saying, that sensation of when am I in my mind, I want something. When am I like going after that and feeling, I just sense it as that, again, outward, let's see, what's the word? Not desire, maybe it is a desire.
Okay.
And and I want it now, that immediate thing. And I'm able to, and then I sense that it's all available, and let it go, let it come as it comes. Let yourself enjoy the process. I think in our society, there's also this thing, it's so fast. Everything is so fast. And I think, this should happen now. We went into this period back in March of quarantine, and I'll probably be in quarantine for a little while longer than some people. I have some immune stuff going on, and that's why I'm in all of these practices, because they help me. They help me to stay as well as I can. But I think from March, my business is shifting, and I'm like, okay, it's been April, May, June. I should have everything figured out in 3 months. And then Tai Chi has helped me to be like, Heather, it might be 3 years, and it's perfect. Like that's the other thing with Tai Chi Fit that I have to say before I know we're out of time, but flow, that sense of being in the flow is tangible with Tai Chi Fit. And I know when I'm not in it, I know what it feels like to go with, as you say a lot, be with the river, be with the flow. It feels amazing. And it feels so much better than when I'm, yeah, the chaos. And so to drop into that flow it has been transformational for me.
That is awesome. That is awesome. So tell us what it's like to be in class with you.
So I don't know, from my perspective, people are usually really excited. To find out as this time is going on, and I pop up Zoom classes, they're like, yay, we get to do this. And I have a lot of students that say, this is the highlight of my week when I can calm down. I've had a lot of interesting things. Some students, there have been a few since I've been teaching that I find will have emotional releases, that they feel it's so powerful and it lets them, it touches them in some way. And it's not, usually it's maybe a tear or two or 5 minutes. It's not anything horrible, but it's, again, transformational. And I also notice, at the beginning of class, we're all kind of chatty, what's going on, and having fun, connecting socially. And at the end of class, it's like Tai Chi, and I hope this is all right, it kind of breaks through the bullshit. Yeah. It drops us into like the most powerful place that this chatty, we don't want that. We want to go deeper. It feels better. So I think my students sense that.
Absolutely. Well, that's good. That's good, because creating space is so hard to do. And it requires a lot of you as the instructor as well, because you're essentially shouldering the emotions of the class, and that takes a lot of strength. That requires a strong practice on your part. So kudos.
Well,
Kudos.
I'm still also working on that whole thing, the dynamic between, again, it's all of these levels. And as you said before, with Tai Chi Fit, there's a level of where, yes, have done this and I know what I'm doing, but as DDR says, there's always more.
There's more.
There's always more.
Always more indeed. Heather, thank you so much for joining us on the Chi-Cast today. I
Thank you,
love
Marcus.
your point of view. Definitely going to have you back, give you some more time later on in the summer, I am sure. Make sure I'll have my people call your people.
Okay, great. And I'm just going to have a little quick plug.
Absolutely.
www Fertile Ground Massage if people want to reach out and learn more about my classes.
Absolutely. Where else can we find you on social media, your appearances, your class times? Give us everything. Give us the rundown.
Well, Facebook and Vimeo, I am Fertile Ground Massage. And then on YouTube and Instagram, it's Heather E. Umberger. So you can find me any of those places. Currently, I'm doing classes on Mondays at 2 o'clock and Thursdays at 4:30 for free for anyone who wants to join. The best thing would be to go to my website, www.fertilegroundmassage. Send me an email, a name and email, and I'll add you to the list of links so you can join.
Awesome. And yes, from somebody who has actually flowed with Heather, I highly recommend her class. She is awesome. You want to talk about getting in touch with you? She's the one to get you there. That is for sure.
Thank you.
And I love your traditional drum in the background there. That is a gorgeous set. That you got going on. Once again, thank you so much for joining us on the Chi-Cast. I really appreciate it. Be good.
Bye.
I'll talk to you soon. That was Heather Umminger coming to us from Tai Chi with Veterans. She's one of our top instructors. She'll be getting a slot with the national team here shortly, and get her scheduled and ready to go. Be the best, most authentic her she can be to make you the most authentic and best self that you can be in your Tai Chi journey as well. It is a crazy world out there. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of miscommunication. There's violence. There's oppression. All of this happening. But peace comes from within. Peace is something you carry. It's not something you find. It's something you cultivate. It's not something that's given to you. Peace, happiness, joy, centering. That's you. You have the power to do that. And in that way, you have the power to change the world itself. That's you. That's all of you. All right. So I'm going to close the Chi-Cast for today, but know that you can find me, Tai Chi with Marcus, on Facebook, Tai Chi W Marcus on Twitter, and Tai Chi with Marcus on Patreon. But more importantly, you can also see the entire Tai Chi Fit family online, taijifit.net. Head over to the website, find the schedules for when there are classes not just online, but in your area eventually when the quarantine is lifted. You can find our Flow subscription, which in these times, to help cultivate, to help carry, you can go right there and learn from one of the great Tai Chi minds of our time, of this generation of Tai Chi masters, and find out what that's really all about. Or if you want to get even deeper and you want to cultivate this in others, head over to taijifit.net, join our instructor subscription program, and that will open your world in a way that you have no idea. You'll be helping each other while investing in yourself and finding a new you, right? So with that said, you can find me in class in about 25 minutes, and you can flow right along with me. You'll find the link, taijifit.net. Look for the scheduler. It's the first class at the very top of the schedule. Free to anybody who wants to come. Just click on the here link. It won't have the time, but it will have the link. So just look for that TC4V online experience and click the here link, and that'll pop you right into the Zoom room. All right. Until then, I'm Marcus Julian Carbo with Taiji Fit International, and I'm going to wish you health, happiness, and harmony till I see you again. Have a good day. Be safe, stay home, and take care.